it. I can't believe this. This thing might be setting a record. Hey everybody, we're back at PMG Technologies, Transport Canada's home of automotive testing, to test the efficiency of various EV wheels. And we've got a new one this time, the EV06. Let's see how it goes. As you may or may not know, EVs are a very special category of vehicle. They need to be aerodynamic from front to back, and that includes the wheels. The wheels play a very important part. They can affect the energy consumption of the vehicle aerodynamically by up to 25%. So choosing the right wheel design for an EV is super important. When we launched the EV01 behind us, we were able to prove that by having the right wheel in the car, you could increase your range by up to 4.5%. And we have something we're going to test today that might even beat that, our new EV06. Let's find out how it does. So how exactly are we going to go about this? Well, the most important thing when you're testing for efficiency and changes in energy consumption is to control every variable possible. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have two vehicles. One of them is going to be going around the track in a static configuration. That's Magneto, my Model 3 with the EV01 Aero wheels on it. And our second car is this time going to be a Model Y. That's going to be our test vehicle. And we're going to run it on the factory Gemini wheels naked. We're then going to put the Aero caps in the Gemini wheels and see how that does. Then we're going to test it against the EV01, our OG Aero wheel from back in 2019. And we've got a new one in store for you, the EV06, which we're going to put on the vehicle and have a shootout between those four configurations. To make sure that we've controlled every variable and we get a true result, obviously, we need to control every single variable we can think of. So the first one is going to be the fact we're using an oval track. So that cancels out any effects from the wind. We're also thankfully blessed with a beautiful day. It's about 21 degrees here, and the temperature is going to stay consistent throughout the afternoon. We've also locked in the climate controls on the vehicles at 21 degrees centigrade with a manual setting of 3 on the fan. The second thing we're doing is we're using the exact same tire on all of our test wheels. That's going to be the Yokohama Advan Sport EV, brand new top-of-the-line EV choice tire, and they have 200 kilometers precisely of scrub-in mileage on them. That means that the tread depth is the same, so the energy consistency in that, the rolling resistance is all going to be the same. We've checked the pressures. All of them were set exactly to 42 PSI at ambient temperatures of 21 degrees centigrade. Furthermore, we're going to be using a steady state speed of 120 kilometers an hour, as indicated on our GPSs. That's about 75 miles per hour for my friends down south. That's going to be held throughout the entire test. When we see a consistent energy consumption rating settle in the vehicles, that's when we're going to lock in, and we're going to average over several laps to make sure that we're getting a consistent energy consumption traveling both ways. The track itself is a 6.5 kilometer banked oval, meaning that the car will enter the bank turn and it will basically steer itself around the track. We could use autopilot if we wanted to, but there's no real need for it because set the steering wheel straight and the car will just continue to circle forever by itself. So again, no steering input means more consistent energy consumption from the tires. In this type of a closed track environment, you're never going to find anything more perfect in the real world. This is as good as it gets. Let's see how it goes.
So we're out on the track in the Model Y, now testing our first configuration. That is the factory 19-inch Gemini wheel that comes on the Tesla Model Y without its Aero covers. So this is going to give us our baseline consumption for a standard wheel of an open design to see what sort of consumption it gets.
Okay, Heather, final number for the Model Y Gemini open wheel test was 208.
Understood again.
Coming in.
All right, so we're on our second test, which is the Model Y with the factory 19-inch Gemini Aero wheels, now with the Aero caps in. So 197, 199, we're somewhere in the 198 average is what it's looking like so far. And the trip odometer is now agreeing with that after the last reset as well. So I think our final number is going to be about 197, 198. And that jives pretty nicely with the results that we got on the Model 3 5 years ago. Aero caps in, Aero caps out. We're going to do one more lap just to make sure that that doesn't change. But I'm pretty happy with that result. That looks legit.
Final number, Heather, was 198. All right, well, we're on test number 3. So that means we've switched over to the original fast Aero wheel, the EV01 Plus. According to the trip odometer that I reset back there, we're running about 197 watt hours per kilometer. So basically the same number that we got with the Gemini Aero caps in the Gemini wheels.
So that's very encouraging. It looks like we're getting around the same thing. So we'll need a few more laps to make sure that that stabilizes and stays in that same zone. But if that's the case, we're looking good.
Go ahead, Mark. I'm getting 191. 191 confirmed.
So I don't know if you guys heard that, but that's our control car, Mark driving Magneto. Sounds like they're right in the same zone. Their consumption really hasn't changed significantly during the whole test, so that's good. And a lie, I'm actually seeing the consumption drop. It's now hovering between 195 and 197. That's better than the factory wheel with the Gemini cover in. That's kind of cool. We gathered almost 40 kilometers elapsed there, and I averaged it over 25. And the honest average over 25 was 197 versus 198 kilowatt hours for the Gemini wheel. So I'm thrilled. And basically, let's call it a match. You know, within 0.1%, we're matching the performance of the original Gemini wheel with the Aero cap installed versus the EV01 Plus. So now the big moment of truth is, can its new little brother, the EV06, beat that? That's what we want to know. We're about to find out. So we're now out on the track with the new kid on the block, the EV06, and we've done a couple of laps to try and get the car into the zone. So yeah, see, now it's creeping down 195. 195! I think that's the lowest we've seen so far. 194! Woo-hoo-hoo! 194. We have not seen that number, I don't think, all day. Not at 120 kilometers an hour. I mean, again, the screen is showing 122. If we look at the GPS, that's actually 120 kilometers an hour, or 75 miles an hour. 193. 193! 193. Oh my God. This thing might be setting a record for efficiency boost out of any wheel we've ever tested. I can't believe this. Now I'm gonna go around another lap just to see, but it is stable. If you look at that graph, it's pretty flat. Guys, you're never gonna believe this. On the last straight, coming up the west side, I was getting down to 193, 194. That's the lowest reading we've seen of any wheel all day.
That's awesome.
I know, I'm freaking out. I just want to go around one more time to make sure that's not a fluke. But I think we're averaging somewhere in the 195, 196 range, even over the long haul. So we could have a winner here. So it's holding 193 now, coming up the westward straight. And that's for an average over 10 kilometers. Our 25 kilometer an hour is now dropped to 197. It keeps dropping. 196. 193. 193 steady. This is crazy. Holy smokes. That's it. I think this is our winner by a hair, by a whisker, but I'm going to call it at 196. I think that's a fair result for the last few laps averaging out. We got as low as 193, but I think the honest result is around 195, 196. I am good with that.
Well, folks, this is it. The finale. All 4 tests are complete. So we had the first result, which was the factory Tesla Gemini wheel without its aero cover on the Model Y. That clocked in at 208 watt-hours per kilometer. We then installed the Tesla Gemini aero caps on the Gemini wheels, went out again, and after about another 25 kilometers elapsed, we dropped that consumption number down to 198 watt-hours per kilometer. So a solid 5% improvement just by adding those aero caps. Very similar result to what we saw on the Model 3 5 years ago when we did those tests with the factory aero cap. Now, this is where it gets interesting. The EV01 Plus on the Model Y actually beat that number. We actually managed, just by a hair, to get it down to an average consumption of 197 watt-hours per kilometer. So we're super stoked about that. But what makes me most excited is the wheel behind me, the EV06, our wheel inspired by the Project Aero, the all-Canadian electric vehicle prototype, beat that again. We got down into the 195, 196. range. We call it 195.5 would have been our final average. We saw some numbers as low as 193, but if I was to average it over the last 25 kilometers, we were hitting a solid 195.5, 196. So that, my friends, is the new Aero King. Tested under perfectly controlled conditions here at Transport Canada, PMG's test track. I could not be more thrilled or more proud of our team at Fast Wheels for developing this wheel, for all of our partnership with Project Aero to get us through all of the extra design and engineering that went into it. I mean, this is an incredible result. We are so thrilled. And now it's available for virtually every EV on the market. We're going to be launching this wheel. It's available currently in 19-inch. We're going to have two finishes, the silver and black that you see on the car, and then a black version that's coming out soon. So you'll have different styling options for this wheel. We're going to have a whole ton of fitments for it. Has super high load ratings. The ones that you see on the car are rated to 1,000 kilograms per corner. So if you're looking for a wheel that's robust, strong, and super efficient, that's your answer.